This is section 7.3, example 1. Graph hyperbola given by each equation. So my equation is y squared over 9 minus x squared over 25 equals 1. So my h is 0, my k is 0, my a is underneath my positive, so this is going to be the square root of 9, which is 3. My b is the square root of 25, which is 5. And then using the Pythagorean theorem, the square root of a squared plus b squared, c is going to equal the square root of 34. So to graph, I need my center, I need my vertices, I need my foci, I need my transverse axis, my conjugate axis, and my asymptotes. So if my y squared is first, this means that this is going to be going vertically, okay? So this is going to be going up and down. My center is at HK, so my center is at 0, 0. My vertices are at 0, and then K plus A. So this is going to be a positive 3 and a negative 3. My foci are at 0, and then K plus C, K plus or minus C. So I'm going to be at positive square root of 34 and negative square root of 34. My transverse axis is going to be x equals 0. My conjugate axis is going to be y equals 0. Now for my two asymptotes, okay? So I have y minus 0 equals a over b times x minus 0. So I get y equals 3/5 x. Then for my second one, these are both going to be 0. The difference is this is going to change to a negative. So because those are both 0, nothing else really changes, so it's just a negative 3/5 x. So I have a positive 3/5 x and a negative 3/5 x. So this one's centered right at the origin. So I'm going to draw my x and my y axes. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to graph my asymptotes. My center is at 0, 0, so I go up 3 over 5. I go down 3 over 5. And then I have my second one. My vertices are at 0, 3 and 0, negative 3. My foci are at 0, square root of 34 and negative square root of 34. And the square root of 34 is a little less than 6. It's about 5.8. So 3, 4, 5.8. And then this one's going to be at negative 5.8. So I'm going to have a branch going up this way and a branch going down this way. So at this point, I need to solve for y, and then I can use my calculator to get all the rest of the parts and pieces. So to solve for y. Get somewhere without a glare on here. What I do is I add this to the other side, multiply by 9, and then take the plus or minus square root of both sides. So I'm going to have the square root of 1 plus x squared divided by 25, and then times 9. Now notice this is all in the inside, and this is all in the inside, and I still have parentheses around that part because all of it has to get multiplied by 9. And then my other one would be a negative that. So square root of 1 plus x squared divided by 25, parentheses times 9. I don't need the times sign there. So I can see my 3 and my negative 3. I can see those two. You can see it a little bit better, 3 and negative 3. And so at this point, I can go to second calc value, and I'm going to use that to get my points. So I'm going to start at x equals 1. So this is barely above 3. Well, if I have that one, I have that one, I have that one, and I have that one. And you can absolutely use the table. You can use more points, but you can use symmetry. So then I'm going to plug in 2. This is up at 3.2. So it doesn't go up very quickly on this problem. At 3, it's only at 3.5. And I'm going to do 4 is at 3.8. And just out of curiosity, I'm going to do one more to see if it goes above. Finally, it goes above, and they're up at 4.2. And then these would be down at negative 4.2. So it's not something that's nice and easy like a parabola anymore. Heroes on both ends. And there is our first hyperbola. Okay, so let's do letter B. So this one is x plus 1 squared over 9 minus y plus 2 squared over 16 equals 1. All right, so this one is going to go horizontally because my x squared is positive. So h equals negative 1, k equals negative 2. A is underneath this one. This is a squared, so that means that a is 3. B is underneath this one, so that means b is 4. And c is the square root of a squared plus b squared, so this is actually a nice one. C is equal to 5. So we have all the same things to find. We have our center, our vertices, our foci, transverse axis, conjugate axis, and then our asymptotes. So my center is at HK. So I have negative 1, negative 2. For my vertices, my y value is the same as k. My x value is going to be h plus or minus a. So if I add those two, I get a positive 2, and if I subtract those two, I get a negative 4. So my vertices are at 2, negative 2, and negative 4, 2. Same for my foci. This is a negative 2, and this is a negative 2. But for my foci, I have h plus or minus c. So one of these is going to be at a positive 4, and the other one is going to be at a negative 6. My transverse axis will be y equals negative 2. My conjugate axis will be at x equals negative 1. And then my asymptotes. I have y minus k, so I'm going to have y plus 2 equals b over a, 4 over 3 times x minus a negative 1. So if I distribute and subtract 2, I get y equals 4/3 x. This would be 4/3, and 4/3 minus 2 would be a negative 2/3. For the other one, I'm going to do y plus 2 equals a negative 4/3 times x plus 1. So again, I will distribute the negative 4/3. So I'd have negative 4/3 x. This is going to be a negative 4/3, and negative 4/3 minus 2 is a negative 10/3. If you need help graphing the linears, because sometimes these are not going to be nice numbers, you can use a calculator to help you graph those asymptotes as well. So this one is a little more off center. My center is in negative 1, negative 2, quadrant 3. So I'm going to draw my graph a little bit more off center. Give myself a little bit more of quadrant 3. So negative 1, negative 2 is my center. My vertices are at 2, negative 2, and negative 4, negative 2. My foci are at 4, negative 2, and negative 6, negative 2. This is going to be your transverse axis. This is going to be your conjugate axis. Again, we don't have to graph those. Before I graph my branches, I'm going to graph my two asymptotes. So I am going to go negative 2/3, and then my slope is a positive 4/3. And then the other one is a negative 10/3. And my slope is a negative 4/3. Now we go to the calculator. So if I'm going to solve for y, I'm going to subtract this to the other side. So I'll have 1 minus this. Then I'm going to multiply by negative 16. Then I'm going to take the plus or minus square root of both sides. So I'm going to have 1 minus x plus 1 squared divided by 9, and then I'd multiply. Now I'm going to multiply by a negative 16, and then I've got my square root already on there. I have to subtract that 2, so that's on the outside of this, so I have to subtract 2, and then the other half is going to be a negative square root of 1 minus x plus 1 squared divided by 9 times a negative 16, and then outside still minus 2. There's that situation again that the calculator likes to do. We, on both of those, there should be no gap there. If I check, I know that my vertices are at -1, -2, and 2, -2. So if I check and I go to -1, oh, sorry, that was my center. Just kidding. 2, -2. Try that again. There we go. 2, -2, and -4, -2. Those are my two vertices. Okay. So after that, gonna graph a few points. If I plug in anything in between here and here, like I just plugged in my center and it was like, oh, it doesn't work because that was my center. Nothing's gonna exist in here. And so I'm gonna plug in 3. 3 is already up at 1.5. So this one's gonna be down here. And again, if you want these, when these are horizontal like this, sometimes a little bit harder, but I can hit the up arrow and it'll just jump down to here. Or again, if you're good, this is up from the middle, 3.5, down 3.5. And then if I type in 4, this is up at 7.3. Or sorry, down at -7.3. And these will usually hug the asymptotes pretty quickly when they are like this. And then just so I have a little bit better, I'm going to type in 2.5 so I have a little bit better connecting the dots process for myself. Oh, was that 0.4, not 0.04. So there's that branch. Now, did I miss the boat on that one? There we go. Now I'm going to go over here, and you again can use symmetry if you want. I'll keep using the calculator. So this was -2. So if I type in a -2.5, just kidding, this was -3, -4. I apparently didn't count correctly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Good catch on myself there. So -4.5. This is up at 0.4. These are going to follow these. And then -5. -6, and we'll call it good. I often get the question, how many points do we need? It's entirely up to you. As long as you have enough to graph a piece of it, a branch of it, it's going to be really hard. This one I had, 3 points, and I had more than enough to graph that, versus the last one that we did, you needed quite a few more to kind of get that. Now that one, I probably could have jumped over by 2s because it was going up so slowly.